Right, so today we're going to be doing Nest.js migrations like a Chad. We're going to do it the proper way. We're going to use env variables, and we're going to have a proper config that we can use. Won't hard code any values, and we'll do it best way that we can, right? So before we get started, you're going to need a database. We're going to be using Postgres here, and I'm not going to install the database on my machine because no one does that anymore. We use Docker now. So what I want you to do before creating the Nestjs project and before we go forth with the migrations, you have to set up a database. Now I recommend that you create a directory. Mine is called migrations, as you can see here in the top right. Create a docker compose.yaml file, paste this in, and create a .env file and paste this in. So before we get started, this will just create a Docker container that will pull this image. This is a Postgres image, and it will add these environment variables. We need this because we want to have a configurable database. Now, if you never use Docker, you can check it out. Install the Docker desktop application program. It's very easy. It's not hard to understand or grasp unless it's something very complex like Kubernetes or so on. But that's out of the scope of this video. So install Docker Desktop, and you can have a database that's very easy to set up or wipe and use. Now, in this Docker Compose YAML file, we have set up a database, and this database will use these environment variables from here: the port, database name, the username, and the password of the user. We will need this to have the same env variables for our Nest.js application. Now, when you set this up, what you want to do is go to your project, right, to your directory. You can also open this up from the Visual Studio Code terminal, and you have to type in this docker compose up build detach. Run this docker compose up build detach. This means that it will look for the docker compose file inside the directory. See, I'm in migrations, and it will pull the images and run the containers, and it will detach, which means that you have a free console. You don't have to be stuck in a window. That's like suspending something, but it's still running in the background, right? It's not like an interrupt where you outright remove the process. Okay. Now you're gonna run this, and it's gonna pull the container, and it's gonna run the container. Now you can go to your Docker desktop here, and you will have the Postgres DB image here, the container for your stack. Okay. Now once you run this and set it up, it's as easy as I've explained it. Download this file, copy this file, create these env variables inside directory, run it with the docker compose up command, and that's it. Now, of course, you're going to want to view the database. Now, I can't recommend anything for you here, but I'm using dbeaver. It's free, it's easy to use, and you can connect easily. Now, what you want to do is you have to have a connection to your database, right? So once you run this container, and you're going to probably run it with the same env variables like I did from here, you're just going to enter them inside the database. It's going to be my database, my user, the local host on this port, 354321. And you're going to have the password, which is password 123. Okay. You're going to add this, and then you can connect to your database, and you will have your database here. Now, in our database, it's initially empty. We have to handle migrations, right? Now, here comes the important part. You can go over and create your Nestjs application inside of this migrations directory or whatever you name it for your project. Now, once you go inside, I'm going to talk over the main thing that we have to do. We have to create this config module. And for that config module, you have to set up the Nestjs config, right? You have to have a config module and config service. Now, to set this up properly, to have TypeORM be used like this instead of, you see most tutorials that say get hard code values. So for example, they would say username and then some username, right? This is not scalable or smart to implement in any way, shape, or form. So if you, in order for you to have the same config and setup as I have, you have to go to your source directory and then go to config or create a directory called config. And inside of here, you have to set up the configuration for your database, right? So what you're going to do is create a config directory. Inside of it, create an app.config.ts. This is for your node environment. For example, if it's development or production, or your port. For example, I love to run my backend on 5000. And once you write this, you can then export it. I use a barrel export here. This is exporting the app config in a way that we can import it more easily inside the app module, as you can see here. Now, the main thing that we have, and this is the database configuration, is this. Most people get this wrong. You have to use these environment variables, and these environment variables have to be the same as the ones I mentioned before with the env for the Docker database. And now, in order for us to have entities and migrations and to have that unified and easily generate these migrations and run them and apply them, we have to set up this part. So entities is going to be your directory name. Then we go back one folder, one path. So for example, we're right now in the database config. We're inside the config directory. This means that we're going to go back once, and now we're inside the source. And we want to scan the entire source directory for entity.ts or JS. So we want to scan for all files that have this dot entity. So that means if we have, for example, entities folder, and inside of them we have entity.user.ts, it will notice that this file exists and scan it and use it for our entities. The synchronize means that once we reload the backend, it will check for entities and apply them. This synchronize should never be used in production because you can lose your data. This is only for development only when you're creating and building out your application. The logging process is also for development, and it's used to log out the queries that are being made. And now is the migration part. This migration property is going to be for a separate file outside of our source directory inside the DB folder, right? And inside of this DB folder, we will have migrations and we'll have our TypeORM config. Now I'm going to go over this file. First, let me explain what's happening here. The migrations, we're right now inside the config directory, right? We have to go back inside the source directory and back once more to go back to the root of the project. Now we go inside the database and the migrations, and now we look for all files that have .ts or .js, okay? Which means inside of this migrations directory, we will generate our migrations, and there it will look for the existing migrations. And the migration table name is what's going to be created inside of dbeaver here. So for example, some have migration history, some have just history, some have migrations, right? It's the table name. I'll show you later. Now, once you create this, you again have to export it. You don't need to do this, but this is a way cleaner way to export stuff. You're going to export the database config. And inside your app.module, you're going to import, you're going to use the config module to load the app config for the port and node environment, the database config for the entire setup that I've just talked over. And now you have to set up the TypeORM. Now we're using the for root async here. We're not using the for root, I think is the function, because we want to first load this database config and then use it, right? So that we can have the access to our config variables, so that we don't have to hard code anything inside, right? This is that way that we want to use it. So in the future, you can just go to your env file and change anything you want. You don't have to go over inside of your app module and then change stuff. It's risky and not well at all. Firstly, because it's a security concern to add important config constants inside of your code, because the code can get debundled, decompiled, and someone can get your secrets. Now that's a topic for itself, but this is how you will use a TypeORM module with env variables. Now once you write this, we can go over, close the source directory. Don't need the entities right now. We'll write this, show the functionality, but you have to create at the root of your project a database folder. I like to create a DB folder, and inside of that folder, you should create a typeorm.config.ts. Now this is essentially the same thing as the config from here. You just open it to the side. It's the same thing, right? Except we have different paths for entities and we have different paths for migrations. We want to look for our entities inside of the source folder, right? Some people use the build folder, but we don't want the build folder. We want the source folder. Because once we change the code, we don't want to build it and then look for migrations. We want to instantly look for migrations when we're developing. So inside the typeorm config, you're gonna give the path to your source folder. So this means that this directory name here means that we're inside DB right now, right? We're inside DB. We're gonna go back once. Now we're inside the root. We're inside here. And we're gonna go to source and scan everything here for any file that has .entity inside of it, and that's a TypeScript or a JS extension. And we're gonna do the same for migrations. But our migrations are instantly here, this folder. So we don't have to worry about it. We'll just say directory name /migrations, and we're gonna look for any files there. Now this is the way to set it up. You have your config service, and now you can get all the variables from inside this .env. So unlike the bad way, you would type in localhost or some host that you're using. This is very wrong, and plus you'll have to type it 2 times. You have to check both files, and that is very error prone. So we're not going to be doing this. This is the proper way. Save it, and now we have to actually have some entities for the migrations to work. So inside of this user entity, I'm going to copy this over. We're going to create a basic user entity. It will have an ID. That's a number. It's going to be auto increment, I think. We're going to name this table users, and we're going to have an email that's unique, and a column is active. It's going to be Boolean true or false. It's going to be default. It's going to default to true. Now we have to apply this, right? To apply this, we have to have a package JSON that will have these new scripts. Now I'm going to leave these scripts in the description, or I'll create a repository for you to copy it along with everything else here. But you can copy over these scripts, and I'm going to just go over the TypeORM one because it's the most important. This essentially means that it will run the TS node, which will give us the ability to, in the future, use relative paths, which you can define here. It will essentially use the TypeScript one, and you're going to want a TypeScript node for this. Now it's going to run the migrations, and it's going to check, not this one, I'm sorry. It's going to check inside, it's going to use the TypeORM inside the node modules. Now, for example, running the migrations, it's going to run the migrations, and it's going to check the /db/typeorm config.ts. And where is that located? It's located right here. See? So when running the migration is going to check this folder and apply everything from that folder, right? And when we generate the migrations, it's also going to check, it's going to load and generate the migrations by some name that we have added. I'm going to show you a quick example. Now, you can go, and once we set all of this up, so we create a database config, create an app config, export this, we add this stuff, these configs here, the config module, and we add the TypeORM module. Once we add this, we also have to have a TypeORM config inside of the root here, and the folder can be named DB, database, whatever. If you rename this folder tomorrow, for example, database, we also have to rename it in every instance here, right? If we have everything here, then we can run the migrations. So I'm gonna generate a migration first, and let's say it's create user, right? Now, once I run this migration, see it's running the TypeORM, now it's running the second script, and we have created the migration. Now, something is wrong with the name here. Let me check. Okay, I made a mistake here. The name should be wrapped with the percentage sign, right? So we're going to create a migration inside the DB migrations and then npm config name, which now means that we can run the migration like this. We can say create user, and let's check the migration directory here. Okay, the migration has generated. There you go. Do not save this. If linter is complaining, just let it go. Now, there it is, the create user migration. And we generated the migration successfully. It has the ID, the email, and the is active. Now, we have to go to our dobeaver and we can check the tables, right? There's nothing here. We have to run these migrations. So we're going to go into our directory and we're going to say into our Nestjs project and we're going to say npm run migration run. And now we should run the migrations. It will check the migrations directory and it will apply them. And as you can see, applied the migrations. Now we can go to our refresh, go to our tables, and there you go. We have the user which has an ID, an email, and is active. We can create the user and we can do anything we want. And this here is the migrations name for the migrations table. So for example, if we changed the migration table name, for example, if it should be, let's say, history or something. By the way, you can place this inside of a env variable and replace it here too. We can also change that and it will reflect here. So it can be history. Some people like to use history. And now we have applied migrations. And now one more thing, Nestjs will run migrations on start. So for example, let's say we delete this, we delete the user. And I said at the beginning, you can check the database config and you go to the config and you can see that it will synchronize if we're in development, right? Which means it will look for entities here. Now, if I start the app, npm run start dev, it will start the application and you can see that the migrations are applied instantly. So if we change the schema, it will also update. So let's refresh this. There you go, users. And let's update the schema. For example, we're going to go to the user entity and we're going to add a column that's going to be unique, true, and let's say string full name string. Okay. Once we save this, Nest will restart and will generate again. We'll look at the entities inside the source directory and generate the migrations again. So we can go and refresh this, go to users, and there you go, full name. You have a full name again. So that's the proper, balanced, and smart way to actually create migrations in Nestjs like a chat.